Paltiel.
Thank you. You are participant number 3.
All right. All right. We are on page Hey. There's much to be illuminated, much to be discussed in all that we have learned last night. But we can't just heap it on all at the same time. But slowly, the principles behind these things will surface. So we'll start 2 lines from the top on page Hey. I was thinking hard, how do we, where would be the stumbling block for us to relate to this whole union of koiches? And it's quite obvious, because the activities that we can observe are in fact all circumstantial, all reactive. Take it the simplest of koiches, like koich hiluch, the koich of walking. Koich hiluch is totally dependent on the feet, and the feet move in a certain way, and as a result of that, the person moves. Repetitive movement of the feet moves the person. Is this merely an exercise, or is this a koyach hiluch? What does it mean it's a koyach hiluch? So we discussed it in the past. Every koyach is actually a revelation, an expression of nefesh. As evidence in the fact that when a person walks, he does not bear in mind that he has to move his feet one after the other. The only thing he has in mind is, I'm walking, I'm getting someplace. He does not at all pay attention to how he gets there, to the activity of the feet. As the Alter Rebbe explains in Tanya, on a more sensitive level of speech, of producing sound, that the production of the sound of any letter is not, even though there is, so to speak, a physical explanation of how the sound produced, well, that's not what he's doing. He's not controlling his lips or opening up his lips and his mouth. He's producing a sound, which means that in the nefesh he has this sense to produce this sound. Which means that, going back to walking, in the nefesh there is the sense of walking. So we discussed this in the past. Where does the nefesh have this whole inyan of walking? Like we said, the Paltiel says, a person is where he wants to be. The walking means that he has to overcome a certain obstacle, a certain distance, but he is where he wants to be. The koyach hiluch comes into play when you have to, when it is on the functional, on the active level. So how is it a koyach nefesh? He is where he wants to be. So we explained many times that the nefesh, yes indeed, the nefesh is much, much higher than having to accomplish things by certain action. At the same time, the nefesh absolutely can relate to the challenge of accomplishing things through focused and concerted action. And what is that about? We know that in the nefesh there are many koiches. There is koch, there is kiach haseichel, kiach midas, and so forth. All the koiches that we can conceive, that chochma, bina, das, even midas, abba, yira, and so forth, all of these koiches, qualities, are essentially manifesting and revealing how the nefesh relates how the nefesh senses things through seichel and through midas. This is all internal to the nefesh. In that respect, the nefesh is completely self-contained internal to itself. But then there is one quality that's called Malchus. Malchus is where the nefesh encompasses. I've been saying all the time, the human being encompasses the whole world. But the nefesh encompasses the world. Now it's an external reality. And it is through this element that it encompasses an external reality. This is where the functioning, the active koiches come to surface. Because if you were to be part of the world, in other words, Malchus should have said that's not in the world, that's in the reality on the nefesh level. But in the world, in order to get from place to place, you have to cover every inch of the distance. Where does the nefesh come to relate to that concept? It's just merely because I happen to be imprisoned in the group and therefore I consent to go through this. Does the nefesh relate to this, or is this something which is something superimposed on the nefesh as a result of being imprisoned in the group? You answer my question? And the answer is, the nefesh does relate to it. Because the nefesh wants to make its imprint and its effect on the external world. Mm-hmm. How does it come to that? This is mitzad midas Malchus. Malchus, we're not going to go into Malchus at this moment, but everybody senses, because we discussed it so many different times, we learned about it. Malchus means that he encompasses everything. He encompasses, not when he is into himself. And it's important to understand that this which the nefesh has in Yam Malchus and it wants to participate and affect the world, it is not for its own benefit. As the world will say, it's for its own security. It wants to control the environment so it would not be vulnerable to external effects. That is not what the nefesh has in mind. The nefesh, in its own mentality, is invulnerable. Nothing can touch it. It has a godly reality. It cannot be affected by anything. The reason that it does encompass the world is because it knows its mission is to bring its light into the world. Instead of being a recipient from the world, it wants to be a mashpia to the world. This is where it's coming from. Now the pasuk says, as we mentioned all the time, Adam Rishon was instructed when it was first created, Pru urvu, be fruitful and multiply. In other words, yes, you are a full-fledged human being, but I want you to be fruitful. I want you to produce more of yourself. Urvu and multiply. Multiply, like Rashi explains, multiply means that you should be able to have not just one replication of yourself, but multiple replications. Many children. Umilo zoretz, and fill the earth v'chivshuo, so that you would conquer the world. That is not by a human thirst for power. This is the fulfillment of the godly mandate and the godly purpose that was imbued in the human being. This is inherent in the neshama. This is where the koichas and nefesh come out. Internally, the nefesh does not need any of the koichas. The nefesh is one with Hashem, and it's perfectly fulfilled by that experience. But it has a mission. And in order to fulfill the mission, just like in the case of walking, you have to translate the concept of being here, from here to be here, to translate it. How is that accomplished on the lowest worldly level? Not in your concept. This was an emphasis mislabish in the goof, where it cannot accomplish anything but by relating and by accepting the limits of the goof. The goof cannot be here and here at the same time. It can travel and get there, but it cannot be there at the same time. The nefesh can. The nefesh has koiches, expresses its ability to be in both places at the same time through its koiches, which come in a graduated manner, in a pnimistic manner. For example, we daven, and we have in davening on a daily basis 10,000 words, I know. But we all we actually, it's one message. But we say it in 10,000 words. Because in the world the message doesn't exist unless you put it into words. These words are not to convince ourselves. These words are to express the truth as we know it. Thus, this is what the koiches is, and this is why it's called koiches pnimiyim, meaning koiches that have a functional purpose, wants to accomplish something, not to be unto itself and to experience its quality, but to have it to have an effect. That's mean pnimiyim.
Pnimi means focused in this case?
The word pnimi means internal. It means that they actually imbue themselves and affect that Inyan that they are. What pnimi. And again, as I pointed out, you have to understand where that comes from. It is not for self-protection, for self-enhancement. It is to fulfill its purpose, its godly mission. Okay, so I said we started, whatever it become, 2 lines from the top on page Hey. Prior to that, we said that he said a principle that because that the koyach pnimim, each koyach has its particular keli, where it expresses itself. The koyach horiya of sight can only relate to the eye. They cannot relate to any other keli. This is a little bit challenging for us, because to us it seems the eye is what sees. Like the camera sees. But that's not what it is at all. And I said it's challenging for us to focus and understand. Sight to the nefesh means to recognize the reality of the world. Not to see whatever is there to see. Like the camera sees or like the dog sees. Like I pointed out many times. A dog runs and a human being walks. And they both together see a wall. What does a dog see? And what does a human being see? It's all through the faculty of sight. The dog sees an obstacle in its path. Doesn't even translate that this is a wall. It's an obstacle, in the sense that I have to go around it. The human being sees, at the minimum, it's a wall. But in reality, he sees that it's a house. This is how he can relate to what he sees. Why? Because the human being, all his koiches is a derivative of the nefesh. The nefesh knows only of truth, of reality. Does not know of insignificant presences. Which we call mono-dimensional entities, which don't exist really. The nefesh relate only to that which really exists, which is real thing, because its primary substantiation of reality is from Hashem, from God, which is only real, only emes, made out of emes, not a surface appearance. This is the koiches hanefesh. These koiches function through the various evodim. The eye is a keli for koyach hariyah. Koyach hariyah. not the physical reaction to light. Now that we've spent all this time, let's examine the eye. We know the eye is sensitive to light because the eye is so translucent that even light goes right through. You don't need to hear it or anything like that. The ear needs to be hit. It goes right through. Okay, this is how we explain it physically. But what is the eye really represent? Why is it so translucent? Because it relates to the outside. It is actually open. The fact that it sees with light, that is already on the practical level. The eye is that which relates to the person, which like that's like Chochmah. Say, this is the. I'm not isolated. There is a real world to which I relate to. That's the eye. Because in the eye, my seeing things is not dependent, or is it worthy seeing or not. I see the reality as it is. Do I not how beneficial it is? What benefit do I have from this? I'm really part of the world. And this occurs this is expressed in the portion in the structure of the eye. It is a separate mitzvah, it's part of the goof, but in the goof itself, it is totally sensitive to its entire environment. And this is why the koyach hori'iyah is mislabish in the eye. And ultimately, when I see, I don't see with the eye, I see with the koyach hori'iyah. So this is what he said before, that the koiches are mislabish in specific avodim. Then he said, however, we do see where there is an interchange, where one koich is mislabish in another koich, like seichel can be mislabish in the hand. Seichel and the hand are eons apart, but seichel can be mislabish in the hand, like we see that the hand can produce tziyur, can produce art, and produce beautiful lettering. This is the seichel. So he explains that this is slapshus of the seichel, as an example, in the hand. It's not in the hand, it's mislabish in the koyach hatnua that's in the hand. This is what he says here in this line, v'hu inyan, the second line, mislapshus ha-koychus zeh bo zeh. The koychus interact. The seichel cannot relate to the hand. It can relate only to the brain. If you are able to explain sight, the brain is infinitely more sensitive than even the eye. And the seichel is what brings the message into the physical world. That seichel cannot be slavish in the hand, no matter how intricate your production is. But it can be slavish in the koyach that's in it. This is what's called the slapshus ha-koyach zeh bo zeh. So, I don't want to leave it without progress. the Yoisom Koiches Pnimi. For this is the conclusion of our discussion in the introduction. The Yoisom Koiches Pnimi, being that they are Koiches Pnimiyim. Koiches Pnimiyim means that they are Koiches that are focused on accomplishing. Not Koiches that stand up to themselves. I don't care what happens around. They have a mission. All the koiches have a mission, as we discussed. Because they pniches pnimim, harei he mislabshim ze bo ze. As a result, therefore, that's why they mislabish one into the other. They interact one with the other. Meaning to say, she'akoyach ho elyoin, where the upper koyach mislabish bekoyach hatachtein umanhigei, imbues itself and deals with the lower koyach umanhigei, and he leads it. He leads the lower koyach, that the lower koyach should function with the illumination and the direction of the higher koyach. Why does the higher koyach care to lead the lower koyach? Because this is part of the definition of koyach pnim. I'm about seichel. I know what the seichel says. It bothers me if the hand does not act according to the seichel. Why does it bother? The hand is a separate koyach. You're not in the hand. No, it bothers me. And I will do everything to direct the hand that it should act according to the human principles. Okay, this is it for this morning. Okay, have a great day.
Is the keli of the eye of the animal very different from? I guess the answer is yes, but
say again.
It just strikes me that the koichos of the re'iyah is so different. Is so different from what an animal sees, right? And human beings, but yet the keli seems to be very,
very similar.
But I guess if you really knew it, if you really understood the keli, they probably also are very significantly different.
We just had this conversation.
Huh?
We just had this conversation the other day.
Thank you.
Mention will be at 5:05 at Beis will be followed by Sicha. It's Hashem.
Thank you.
And the bringer will be at Tuna's house, 15 Palm Court. At least at 4:45.
Oh, new address. It's on the corner.
So you sent around an email, so I'll have to print it out. So before I leave the house, I have to know where to go.
There must be a big difference.
All right. It's an about thing, and there's no point of just blurting out little sentences.
Da yada